I think I may have discovered my go-to recipe for this summer. Since buying this Fujifilm X Pro 2, I've been on a hunt for a perfect recipe. Like, you know, the Ultra 2 doesn't maintain white balance between recipes, so of course you can log them all, but you have to remember your white balance shift and all that, or, you know, have it somewhere on your phone so that way you can change it each time. So I tend to stick to one recipe at a time, and I was on the hunt for a recipe that I could use in multiple scenarios, different lighting conditions on all of our travels and family experiences. And this started when we were going to Convict Lake earlier this year, a few months ago, or a couple months ago at this time. We were going to Convict Lake, and I was like, man, I need to have my Convict Lake recipe. And then of course, I was on the hunt. I was looking at other YouTubers out there, different forums and applications like Fuji X Weekly, and trying to see if I could find a good recipe. And I did find a good one. It's like a variant of a Portra recipe, but I made a few tweaks into the color, and I've been kind of refining it over time. And hopefully today's recipe is one that will never leave your camera. And of course, we're talking about Classic 89. That's just what I'm calling it. You can call it whatever you want, but it's a version of Portra. I don't want to waste your time and talk your face off. I'm gonna go ahead and break down some of the images that I took with this recipe. On our way to Convict Lake, I was fully prepared to stop along the way and take pictures of cool architecture, different things that caught my eye out of the window of the car, and I couldn't help but stop for this series of houses that were just lined up. We call them colorful houses. I don't know, it's just rainbow houses. It was like super nice. It caught my eye instantly because the entire landscape is beige. You know, you're kind of in the desert and, you know, the mountain area. So you see these vibrant, super colorful, saturated houses on the left side of the road. I couldn't pull over fast enough. It had the mountains behind it. I was like, yeah, this is the perfect photo for the trip. I'm definitely gonna take this picture. And actually, funny enough, a cop pulled up behind us and asked me if I needed any help. And I was like, no, I'm just stopping to take a picture of these houses. They're super cool. And she was like, yeah, isn't it weird? I don't know why they painted them that color, but yeah, it caught my eye instantly. I love this image. And yeah, that was the first picture I took with this new recipe. Along the way, I took several images of like a lemon house, you know, old Mater truck. And one thing that's consistent throughout all these images, you can tell, is like the saturated but like desaturated toned down blue. I also love how the other colors pop. Yeah, it just I don't know what it is, what it's doing, the color matrix, but it's pleasing to my eye. And you know, if you like it, you can add it to your camera as well. Throughout that trip, I just took a ton of pictures and random photos of us fishing, of my family, and it was just a good time. And I didn't think about how I was gonna edit it afterwards. I've been searching for a way to get into the JPEG life and find a recipe that I could just click and be done. And this was honestly the recipe for me on this trip. And most recently we went to Carpinteria, and I took a lot of beach photos of seagulls flying and sand, and me and my daughter playing, our footprints in the sand, different, you know, elements of the beach that were just around, like this cool seahorse wind chime thing that was hanging on the tree. It was a good time. It was a really good time. And I really like this recipe a lot. I actually also used it at an Angels game recently. It was my daughter's first Angel game, and we're in the shade a little bit, and I noticed that it does react differently when you're in the shade versus when you're in direct sunlight. The colors were still really vibrant and punchy, but I like the tones overall. The skin tones look good. It looks really good on melanated skin. I love this recipe for those family moments and memories. And yeah, I got some cool pictures of the stadium, got some pictures of my daughter running around the bases, you know, her just enjoying ice cream and her first baseball game. So that was a cool memory for us to capture with this recipe. And to give you guys the recipe itself on the Fujifilm X Pro 2, some of the settings will be different if you have a newer camera, but mine are as follows. We have the classic chrome film simulation, of course. We also have the grain effect set to strong. the dynamic range set to auto, which I think actually lends to it being more useful in different lighting scenarios. White balance is also set to auto with a red 2 and -4 blue shift. Once again, making it a more versatile recipe that you can use in different lighting conditions. Highlight tone is set to -2. Shadow tone is set to 0. Color is +2. Sharpness is -1. Noise reduction is -2. I actually tried to duplicate this recipe on my friend's X100V, and the tones were close, but not exact. And I think that really comes down to the difference in the X-Trans sensors on the older cameras versus the newer ones. But if you have an X Pro 2, your images should come out looking exactly like mine, because these are straight out of camera, JPEGs, all good to go. Now, of course, you can switch this around to your liking. I actually, personally, I switch up like highlight tone and shadow tone depending on the scenario a little bit, and you know what I'm going for at the moment. If I want my shadows to be a little bit more, you know, shadowy, then I might bump it up. But just tweak it to your liking. You might tweak the white balance shift a little bit, but this is kind of where I settle in, because it favors my skin tone, my family skin tone really well. I like what it does to the greens. I like what it does to the blues. I like desaturated blues. I feel like blue is a very overpowering color. And yeah, that's what I use. And I like the reds a little bit. It makes it slightly warm, but not too warm. I originally wasn't even gonna make this video about this recipe, because I feel like there are so many different versions of Portra and classic chrome recipes out there. But I posted some photos on Instagram and Threads. And this video is actually only being made because Hennessy Matt on Instagram asked what recipe I was using for the photos that I posted. So that's why I'm making this video, because Hennessy Matt wanted to know. I'm gonna let you know in this video. Also, if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I have 2 accounts. One for, you know, a lot of the tech stuff, which is FilmedByFresh, the channel name. And then the other for all the Fujifilm photo stuff and film stuff is Spruce and Grain. And yeah, I'm gonna be using this recipe a lot more going forward. I'm gonna be, I'm kind of shifting. I feel like I have phases with Fujifilm recipes. Like, you know, I had the bright Kodak phase where everything was warm and soft and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm kind of dialing it back a little bit, and I want something that's semi-neutral, but still has character and punch to the colors. But like I said, I feel like blue is very powerful, and I feel like I want to desaturate those blues every now and then. I really am dialing in this recipe to be something that is kind of like a one shot. Like I want to get away from raws. I really do want to get away from raws. But I do like to sit down and edit photos every now and then. So I'm kind of torn on that, but I want this to be one press shutter, boom. This is golden. I know it's gonna look good. It's gonna be my go-to recipe, something that's really neutral. But yeah, if you want to see these photos before they hit YouTube, of course, follow me on Spruce and Grain. That's will be, you know, where all the photos are shared, on Threads as well as on Instagram, and also of course Twitter at FilmedByFresh. But yeah, it's been a pleasure as usual, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this content, you want to see much more like it, I have a few other Fujifilm videos that you should definitely check out. Feel free to subscribe. If you've been listening to me ramble right now without a script for the past 15 minutes at this point, yeah, just subscribe. It's been a pleasure, man. I like building this community. I feel like we've built a good handful of people that like these Fujifilm videos. This was kind of an offshoot niche that I just fell into because I just love taking pictures with this Fujifilm camera. This Fujifilm X Pro 2, it's kind of changed my life in a way, I guess you could say. And yeah, I like the fact that this is also growing the community. But yeah, until next time, guys, it's been a pleasure as usual. I'll stop talking, I promise. Peace.